Margrave was originally the medieval title from the military commander assigned to maintain the defense of one of the border provinces of the Holy Roman Empire or of a kingdom. The position became hereditary in certain feudal families in the empire, and the title came to be borne by rulers of some imperial principalities until the abolition of the empire in 1806. Thereafter, those domains were absorbed in larger realms of the titleholders adopted titles indicative of full sovereignty. A Margrave finds a direct analogy with the title of Exarch in the late Roman, early Eastern Roman Empire era, i.e., the military commander and governor of a region at the brink of the controlled territories. History. Etymologically, the word Margrave is the English and French form of the German noble title Markgraf, which also is semantically related to the English title Marcher Lord. As a noun and hereditary title, Margrave was common to the languages of Europe, such as Spanish and Polish. A Markgraf originally functioned as the military governor of a Carolingian mark, a medieval border province, because the territorial integrity of the borders of the realm of a king or emperor was most important to the nation's security. The vassal, whether counterlord, whose lands were on the march of the kingdom or empire, was apt to be appointed Margrave, given greater responsibility for securing the border. The greater exposure of a border province to military invasion mandated that the Margrave be provided with military forces and autonomy of action, greater than was accorded other lords of the realm. As a military governor, the Margrave's authority often extended over a territory larger than the province proper. Because of border expansion subsequent to royal wars, the Margrave thus usually came to exercise commensurately greater politico-military power than other nobles. The Margrave maintained the great armed forces and fortifications required for repelling invasion, which increased his political strength and independence relative to the monarch. Moreover, a Margrave might expand his sovereign's realm by conquering additional territory, sometimes more than he might retain as a personal domain, thus allowing him to endow his vassals with lands and resources in return for loyalty. The consequent wealth and power might allow the establishment of a de facto independent princedom. Most marks, and the Margraves, sprung up along the eastern border of the Carolingian Empire, and later that of the Holy Roman Empire. The Breton mark on the Atlantic Ocean and on the border of peninsular Brittany, and the Marca Hispanica on the Muslim frontier are notable exceptions. The Spanish mark was most important during the early stages of the peninsular reconquest of Iberia. Ambitious Margraves based in the Pyrenees took advantage of the Muslim Al-Andalus disarray to extend the territories southwards, which led to the establishment of the Christian kingdoms that would become Spain in the 11th century. In the late Middle Ages, as territorial borders stabilized, marches began to lose the primary military importance, but the entrenched families which held the office of Margrave gradually converted them into hereditary fiefs, comparable in all but name to duchies. These Margraves became substantially independent rulers of states under the nominal jurisdiction of the Holy Roman Emperor. Similar to the evolution of dukes, landgraves, counts Palatine and Fersen, the Golden Bull of 1356 was issued by Charles IV, Holy Roman Emperor, recognizing the Margrave of Brandenburg as an elector of the empire. Possession of an electorate carried membership in the highest college within the Imperial Diet, the main prerogative of which was the right to elect, along with a few other powerful princes and prelates, the non-hereditary emperor whenever death or abdication created a vacancy on the imperial throne. The Mark Brandenburg became the nucleus of the House of Hohenzollern's later Kingdom of Prussia and the springboard to their eventual accession as German emperors in 1871. Another original march also developed into one of the most powerful states in Central Europe. The Margraviate of Austria, whose rulers, the House of Habsburg, rose to obtain a de facto monopoly on election to the throne of the Holy Roman Empire. They also inherited several, mainly Eastern European and Burgundian, principalities. Austria was originally called Marcia Orientalis in Latin, the eastern borderland, as Austria formed the eastern outpost of the Holy Roman Empire, on the border with the Magyars and the Slavists. During the 19th and 20th centuries, the term was sometimes translated as Ostmark by some Germanophones, but medieval documents attest only to the vernacular name Ostarici. Another mark in the southeast, Styria, still appears as Steiermark in German today. The Margraves of Brandenburg and the Margraves of Meissen eventually became, respectively, the kings of Prussia and of Saxony. Rank. The title of Margrave, no longer a military office, evolved into a rank in the Holy Roman Empire's nobility, higher than Graf. It was equivalent to such associated compound titles as Landgrave, Palsgrave and Gefürsteter Graf, yet remained lower than Herzog and even, officially, lower than Fürst. A few nobles in southern Austria and northern Italy, whose suzerain was the emperor, received from him the title of Margrave, sometimes translated in Italian as Marquis. Those who reigned as virtual sovereigns exercised authority closer to the dynastic jurisdiction associated in modern Europe with the Margrave, while some non-ruling nobles retained use of the Margravial title but held the non-sovereign status of a marquis. Usage. By the 19th century, the sovereigns in Germany, Italy and Austria had all adopted higher titles, and not a single sovereign Margraviate remained, although the title remained part of the official style of such monarchs as the German emperors, kings of Saxony and Grand Dukes of Baden. It fell into desuetude as the primary title of members of any reigning family. The children of Charles Frederick, Grand Duke of Baden, by his second, morganatic wife, Louise Caroline Geyer von Geiersberg, only legally shared the mother's title of Imperial Count von Hochberg from 1796, and were not officially elevated to the title of Margrave until 1817, when they were publicly demorganatized. But the father had, in fact, allowed its use for his morganatic children at his own court in Karlsruhe from his assumption of the Grand Ducal crown in 1806, simultaneously according the princely title to the dynastic sons of his first marriage. However, from 1817 his male line descendants of both marriages were internationally recognized as entitled to the princely prefix, which all used henceforth. The title of Margrave of Baden has been borne as a title of pretense only by the head of the House of Zähringen since the death of the last reigning Grand Duke, Frederick II, in 1928. Likewise, Margrave of Meissen is used as a title of pretense by the claimant to the Kingdom of Saxony since the death in exile of its last monarch, King Frederick Augustus III, in 1932. Translations. The etymological heir of the Margrave in Europe's nobilities is the marquis, also introduced in countries that never had any margraviates, such as the British marquis. Their languages may use one or two words, e.g. French Margrave marquis. The Margrave marquis ranked below its nation's equivalent of duke or of prince, but above count. The wife of a Margrave is a Margravine. In Germany and Austria, where titles were borne by all descendants in the male line of the original grantee, men and women alike, each daughter was a Markgrafin as each son was a Markgraf. The title of Margrave is translated below in languages which distinguish Margrave from marquis, the latter being the English term for a continental noble of rank equivalent to a British marquis. In languages which sometimes use marquis to translate Margrave, that fact is indicated below in parentheses. Variations. Several states have had analogous institutions, sometimes also rendered in English as Margrave. For example, on England's Celtic borders, marcher lords were vassals of the King of England, expected to help him defend and expand his realm. Such a lord's domain was called a march. The marcher lords were a conspicuous exception to the general structure of English feudalism as set up by William the Conqueror, who made a considerable effort to avoid having too powerful vassals with a big contiguous territory and a strong local power base. The needs of fighting the Welsh and Scots made it necessary to have exactly this kind of vassal in the marchers, who did develop their own territorial ambitions. The late medieval commanders, fiefholders, of Viborg Castle in Finland, the bulwark of the then Swedish realm, at the border against Novgorod, Russia, did in practice function as margraves, having feudal privileges and keeping all the crown's incomes from the fief to use for the defense of the realm's eastern border. Its fiefholders were descended from, or married to, the noble family of That from Småland in Sweden. Margrave is an example of a town whose name comes from a margrave, located in the Masurian region of East Prussia. Margrave was founded in 1560 by Albert Duke in Prussia, Margrave of Brandenburg. It has since been renamed to the Polish Olecko. The German word Mark also has other meanings than the margrave's territorial border area, often with a territorial component, which occur more numerously than margraviates, so its occurrence in composite place names does not necessarily imply that it was part of a margraviate as such. Uses of Mark in German names are commonly more local, as in the context of a Markgenossenschaft, which means a partially self-governing association of agricultural uses of an area. The German name component Mark can also be a truncated form of Markt, market, as in the small town of Marksuhl in the Eisenach area of Thuringia, meaning market town on the river Suhl. The non-margravial origin even applies to the county of Mark and the country of Denmark. The Sassanid Persian position of Martzban was a position given to officials or generals who were trusted by the king and that had land, villages and towns in far reaches of the empire. In return for the position and privilege to collect taxes, they were responsible for defending the empire from foreign intrusion. The Byzantine Empire had a number of fortified passes in the mountainous frontier districts called Klysura, particularly along its eastern border with the Caliphate, each headed by Klysaurashes who controlled access to inner lands. The Turkish title and position of UCB, used in early Turkish Anatolia and during the Ottoman conquest of the Balkans, is also often rendered as Margrave. The wife of a margrave is known as a margravine.